Good morning, everybody, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. This is Jo from Live Virtually, and thanks for tuning in to the podcast. You're listening to episode 11, and I am joined by the amazing Julia, and she is a confidence coach. So I have left a little bit of a bio in the intro before the intro. So if you want to grab more information, the details will be in the show notes. But let's just get stuck in. Hello, my beautiful friend. How are you? And thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for letting me come on your podcast. Really appreciate it. I am really good today. Yeah.
That's good. Can you tell us a little bit about you and where you're from, what you do, who you help?
Yeah, sure. No problems. So I currently live in Toowoomba, but I started my business in London, actually, what is now almost 6 years ago. I help high performing individuals to become magnetic. So have that ease about themselves, especially, I guess, in social settings. But of course, that translates into business because it's all about building those relationships and being really comfortable with who we are at our core, you know, our light and our dark within us, because then we turn up a lot better. So yeah, I offer coaching to people on the go and one-on-one mindset coaching. And I really, really enjoy what I do. Really lights me up.
That's awesome. And you, in Australian terms, that's quite local. So Gold Coast to Toowoomba is what, 3 hours, if I remember my traveling over to that side. I used to go through one of the showrooms. I was supervisor for a shower screen company, and one of my showrooms was out in Toowoomba. So I remember driving up that big hill. That's about it. It's like, yeah, there's a great big hill to drive into Toowoomba, but it's really, really pretty. I really liked it out there. So it's a nice scenic drive. So, so you're a confidence coach. So what does that mean for people like are perhaps starting out or that have started on the journey? And, you know, like I know, for example, a lot of people struggle with like their pricing and comparisonitis and things like that. So what advice would you give for somebody around those things?
For somebody who's starting out, I guess there's probably a multi-level approach to it, I suppose. I think, first of all, researching what actually are the prices roughly in your field that you work in helps, because sometimes you undercut yourself by not knowing what's the ballpark. But then also you need to actually think about what your value is and if the price you've got in your head indicates your value. And that really comes back to self-love. And I think there's a lot of business owners out there who, when they start off, they go, oh yeah, this is roughly how much time it would take somebody, or take me to deliver that coaching session, for example, but they don't think about all the work around it. They don't think about the expertise they had to learn to be able to deliver that coaching session, or in your case, like to be able to do virtual assistant work, or your email signatures, and all that tech behind it. And so at the end, you can sometimes go, wow, I'm really only paying myself $10. And it kind of hits you and you go, oh man, that's not really valuing who I am. Yeah. And you get to that point where you think like, oh, why do I feel like I'm working my butt off, but I'm not actually getting that love vibe from my passion for your business? And it's usually because we've had that disconnect. We really want the clients, we really want the change in our business, but we haven't realized that part of loving that process is loving ourselves and pricing it appropriately.
I totally agree. Look, I think, you know, like, you know, you're starting out as a VA or, you know, whatever it is. Like I have a lot of healers and a lot of spiritual coaches and, you know, like all sorts of different people. But for me, it's like trading that time for dollar is, you know, like some clients I still charge an hourly rate for. And now I've had 35 years in the workplace almost. And so I can do things really quickly. And yeah, my husband's always saying to me, you know, like, you price yourself out. He's like, you know, like, you do things in an hour that would take somebody else 5 hours. So, you know, like, I get that, like, totally get that. And I agree with the self-love. Like, I suppose the other question that's come up a fair bit, and actually came up last night, I was at an event, and that was, you know, where does that price start feeling icky for you? And I think, you know, sometimes it's got to feel uncomfortable, but not to the point where you're like, oh no, or I can't possibly, you know, like, charge that. Or the other flip side of that is, we're not charging enough, like you said, you know, and you end up going out at $10 an hour when you've worked out all your bits and bobs that you've done. So how do you find that sweet spot that feels right energetically for you?
I think it's honestly about I think it's about intention. So you can have different price pointed products or services, but your intention behind what you're doing and who you're trying to capture in those products or services may change the way that you energetically feel about them. So, for example, I have my on-the-go coaching, which is $69 per month. Now, at first I thought, wow, like, and I changed my price point around that. I thought, oh, that's really cheap. But my intention around that is to make it accessible to people. And because I have that intention there to capture more people who can't pay for a premium service, but still deliver great value, I don't feel like it's icky because that intention's there.
So is that a group coaching platform?
No, it's still personalized. I'm a bit against the grain when it comes to group coaching. I will add group coaching.
Tell me more.
I will add group coaching in as like something that we can do is like a celebration, or what's our collective growth patterns or pains we've had in a month. But otherwise, I'm big on personalizing things, because I think that's where you really get your breakthroughs. Group coaching is very popular because you've got your one-to-many approach. But I live for the breakthroughs with my clients. And I feel like sometimes on a group coaching call, you might have a couple of people that kind of dictate the coaching sessions. And maybe over time that becomes even. But for really getting that breakthrough for the client, I feel like that personalized approach, if you can do it one-to-many without going to a group coaching way, like through a mobile app like I have, I think that's a bit better bang for buck from the client's point of view.
That's awesome. So, that's a really good way of looking at it, because I know I'm in a couple of group coaching. I mean, for me, like, I do lots of talk. And you do tend to you don't intentionally take over, but, you know, like, I think if you're on that call, it's you want to be heard, and you want somebody to hear what it is that you've got that issue with. But yeah, and like, you know, it's a good way of looking at it. It's like, okay, but is that at the cost of somebody else's learning, or, you know, like the coaching that they're going to get from you or from the coach that they're with? So yeah, I totally get that. And, you know, like, so what's the alternative? Like, you know, how do you, like, do you do yours on like Voxer, or is that like different approach, or do you still do like a one-on-one like Zoom call with people?
Yeah, so my mobile app is actually hosted by Trainerize, and I have filmed like 1,500 coaching videos based on the most common pain points for my clients. And I will continuously block out time every month to film more videos as well. And any free interaction or podcast chat or anything like that that helps me understand more insights, I'll then go and film more on that. when I do an initial consultation with someone, they will tell me exactly what I think their pain point is. But then I'll also let them know, like, it's possible that you have blind spots that you can't see that we will need to fill with your coaching sessions. So they get 7 to 10 minute videos on the app, and I go and plan them ahead, no more than 3 weeks, so it's not too much. And they can tap into that whenever they have a free moment. So it's personalized, but I can essentially schedule it, you know, a month if I wanted to in advance and tweak it as I go. But I could have, you know, 40 clients on that same platform at once, and they can use in-app messaging to let me know. So I guess it's similar in a sense to Voxer, in the sense that you've got someone on tap, but they have me on tap 5 days a week for that if they want. They can share a photo of their journal entry with me if they want. So it's really helpful in that way, especially because all my clients and a lot of people that are high performers, I find, tend to just be massive action takers. And when they want to have that moment to talk to someone, they just need a quick touch point. And so, and same with coaching, they don't necessarily have a full hour. And so that on the go is a really good way to go about it. But by the same token,
we'll cut that bit out. Pretty good conversation as well. All right, so let's back up. Where did I get to? I think you were saying about the you've got like lots of videos and you know, the high performers. I think you were talking about the high performers and how like you they haven't always got an hour to spare, and you know, like the steps that you were taking them through in that.
So I just finished up by mentioning that then I hope I got it in before it cut out, that some people that do have the hour can still have that intensive hour coaching session with me, but those that don't have another option. I really like that. That's such a good concept, and it's something different. I like the fact that you've got the videos in there, but you've still got access. I know, like, I've just started a membership for spiritual women in business, and mine is based on running your business through your chakras. So it's, you know, like, it's the business management side of the tech, because I find with a lot of spiritual women that the tech things get overwhelming, and you know, like all the things that you have to do as a business person. So whether it's, you know, your social media, or it's your marketing, or it's your emails, or it's putting courses onto a course platform. And I found that the ladies that have joined so far like the fact that I learn easily and I learn quickly, and then I can teach them in a way that speaks their language, because, you know, like, we can all go on YouTube, but it's finding that person that speaks to us in a way that we learn, and you can't always find that person. So I think if you can find, like, I think my gift is that I can teach somebody in their learning style, or to them it feels like I'm teaching them in their learning style, because I chat like I think when I teach, I chat like I'm chatting to each and every single person. And I've done it for a long time, you know, like I've been doing this since I was 17, and, you know, like, I'm over 50 now, and it's a long time to be learning things and breaking them down and then putting them back together to teach. And teaching adults is actually harder, because if they don't want to learn, they're not going to learn. And I worked for a solicitors for a long time, and we introduced like a CRM system, and it was actually built in-house, and I was part of the team that was building and testing and then teaching. And I remember one person in particular that, like, stood out, and he came to the training sessions probably 6 times.
I taught him the same thing 6 times. And what it took in the end was him actually being told that he didn't learn, not by me, but like by his manager. If he didn't learn how to use it, he was not going to have a job, because everything was moving over to this system. And so all of a sudden he knows how to use it, and you're like, have I just wasted like 6 sessions? But like, I suppose it's the other thing is, like, one of my coaches always says about the 7 to 10 touch points. So we have to see something, or we have to read it, and we have to like look at a video, or we have to listen it's said between 7 and 10 times. So is that the same when some people learn? So it could be that I have to listen to it, watch it, do it, then do it again, and then do it again. And I think sometimes we forget that people aren't the same as us, and you think, well, that's easy for me, but for somebody else that's really, really difficult. So yeah, it's interesting. I really love that, the concept that you've got with your coaching. So you mentioned that you look after a lot of high performers. So from working with all those amazing women, and you're in that place yourself, what are your top tips for putting yourself in that mindset that you are a high performer?
Well, I guess, first of all, I think there are a lot of high performers that don't identify themselves as high performers because they don't want to have a label on there. So they might, first of all, say that they are a bit anxious, or they overthink. They don't celebrate their wins, for example. So I think if unpacking some of these behaviors or thoughts or beliefs first help to know what are the actions to take. So I think things like being present, although it's really simple, is super important as well, because women in particular are really good at multitasking, or so we think. And then we wonder why we're kind of not hitting those achievements that we want. And I think that's another aspect of high performers. We're really hard on ourselves because we want to get to a certain level, whether that's income, whether that is the impacts we're making, our followers, just learning more about what's happening in our business. And so when we're more present, we can just enjoy where we're at, celebrate what growth we've had so far, and then also help use that to spur us on to what is the next stage, instead of just kind of snowballing into, I'm doing this now and this is my focus, and not sort of honoring our effort, I think is a big thing. I think also it's definitely about keeping the energy high. So it's easy to have your high performance in work, but you drop off your performance in other areas. A lot of people that I work with are service-based as well. And so they're very good at giving love to other people and giving service to other people, but not so much to themselves, and then losing their energy. And of course that impacts their results. Yeah. And so it's just about, I guess, touching on what you were saying before, is like pulling apart the bigger picture into pieces, then putting it back together. And with confidence and high performance, part of that is, well, the pieces are energy in every aspect of my life. So do I raise my energy level by exercising or by doing something that I love? Am I doing that regularly enough? Because that will increase my energy in my business to have greater productivity. So like this week for myself, I did a test, like if I did a HIIT workout at 5 o'clock in the morning versus a walk, what was the difference? And it was crazy. Like I wrote 13,000 words on Tuesday morning, and then I went for a walk on Wednesday morning, and I was like not really getting much done. I was doing chores and menial stuff till like 11 o'clock, and then my brain wanted to work. So it was just like a massive big difference. And I think there's a lot of other people that are similar in that sense, but it's finding out what is the right thing for you.
That's an interesting a little competition, if you like, of what you do. Yeah, like, you know, I know I'm the same, like I'm a multitasker, and I have to stop myself from doing that. And I think sometimes it's when we work on our computers all the time, it's very difficult to not look at that email or, you know, your Facebook notifications or your Messenger notifications. You know, one of the ladies that I work with, she's a decluttering expert. She uses Pomodoro method quite a lot, you know, and I think sometimes we need to have that focus on the task in hand to be more productive. Like you said, it's like, yes, we are multitaskers as women, but should we really be doing that? Like, is that benefiting us, and is that benefiting our clients? And the answer is probably not, because we're not present. So we're not giving that person the attention that they deserve, or ourselves the attention that we deserve. So yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that one, and that's something that I certainly need to look at as well. So, you know, like, I think we can all improve in our own areas. You know, there's always something that we need to be working on next. So I was going to mention something when you brought it up, and I was like, I can't remember what I was going to ask now. It was probably really important as well. It's one of those brain fart moments. You're like, okay, you know, like you think of it, and then you become present, and you go, okay, it's popped out of my head now. So, so one of the things that I know a lot of people struggle with, I'd like to hear, you know, your thoughts on like time blocking, or, you know, setting up yourself for your day in the best possible way.
Yeah. That's funny actually, because as you were talking about the Pomodoro technique, I was like, yeah, I've got another tip about time. So that's kind of perfect. For me, I actually am a big firm believer in, and I can't remember who the original person is that come up with this, but where your task fits the time you allocate for it. And so when it's me individually, but I know other people do the same, if I make it like a competition, it excites me like a dog. But so I will usually try and set a task, whether it's writing a couple of emails or something like that, to be 5 minutes shorter than what I think it should be. And then I challenge myself to get it done in that time. And simply because I know roughly how long it's going to take, I've got to the point now that it's pretty much right on point, or a couple of minutes short, that it's actually done. Whereas before, I remember going, oh, I'm going to repeat that timer, a little bit. But I think it's really good, because if you practice, it helps you practice your boundaries as well. So if you say, all right, this is done, now I'm moving on, then that's a good help in practicing your boundaries, which of course spills over into your personal life too. As long as you don't press the repeat on your timer. Of course, like, that's different if you've got something due the following day and you don't really have a choice. But I'm very big on batching, but I still think that you have to be conscious of how your body works in time. So for example, I'll find that, like, if the morning is not working at all whatsoever, I know that my brain will tick at 10 p.m. at night. So I could push myself to work all day and not be very productive. Or I could say, you know what, let's just be self-compassionate. Let's do something else for the day that I know I need to get done. It might not be business, but at 10 o'clock, I'll do 2 hours worth. And that 2 hours will be like golden hour time at school for kids. And I'll get like 8 hours done in 2 hours because it's super productive.
Yeah.
And then I'm not being harsh on myself. I don't lose confidence because I feel like I've just wasted a day, and I've still used my day well also. So yeah, that's another thing I think is really important.
So with your talking about like 10 o'clock at night, having suffered from adrenal fatigue, I know that that's the time that your adrenals kick back in when they're, well, certainly for me, it's when mine are getting depleted. So, you know, like I find that it's harder to get up in the morning because obviously you're sleeping later. I'm, you know, reaching for that coffee and stuff. So how do you counteract your body needing that energy and your adrenals needing that quick fix, if you like, with doing that work at say 10 o'clock at night as opposed to 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah. Well, I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor or anything like that, but I think that sometimes it's about turning your mind off and taking the action. So for like, I had adrenal fatigue in 2014, and I know it's crap. I mean, I trained to climb Everest for 2 years, and then I couldn't do it because 16 people died in the Khumbu ice fall, and they cancelled all hikes. And I'd been training so hard every single week, and suddenly I couldn't put my boots on anymore. And I focused at that point in time on just getting up and walking down my street, even if it was like 2 minutes in my pajamas.
Yeah.
And then I could come back, and then I could go in my bed if I needed to, but at least my body got to shut up my body got to shut up my brain, basically.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? And look, I think there's a lot more people that don't realize that they're not in full adrenal fatigue, but that they're forgetting to nourish their bodies and nourish their minds. I know when I've looked back, I've had it more than once. The second time, like, it was a full crash and I was in bed for 3 weeks. Both times I was in really, really stressful jobs and in stressful places. And, you know, like, since I've been working at home and for myself, I find I'm a lot more nourished because I'm doing what I love. I'm not in that environment. But yeah, but you can still feel like, okay, I'm getting a bit stressed this week because I've got, you know, X deadlines, or I've got, you know, 6 clients tomorrow or whatever. It's quite easy to go back into that mousetrap, if you like, of getting on that wheel and going, okay. So like from like you mentioned journaling before, are there any other practices that you did or that you do or you recommend to your clients? Because going with the high performers, that's something, you know, burnout is one of those things that quite often comes with being at the top of your game.
Yeah, I think you've got to schedule in nothingness.
I like that.
I think a lot of people just say, you know, I don't have time. So, or when I'll have time, then I'll have a break. Well, it's not really how it works. We usually end up, our body will usually say, okay, I'm making you rest now, and you don't have a choice. And I think it's absolutely beautiful our body does that, because it's really telling us, wake up to yourself and listen to how you're feeling. And I don't know that there's many other things we have that in life. So it's really cool. But yeah, when you schedule time to do nothing. And I think the key thing is, you know, no mobile phone, not eating or do anything else. Just like if you've got a hammock, lie in your hammock, lie in your bed for 5 minutes. And I think sometimes mums that are also business owners and high performers struggle with this because they don't think they've got 5 minutes. And I'm going to call BS on that, because you have 5 minutes. Even if you've got to lock yourself in the loo, you've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's about, will I take that 5 minutes to avoid the burnout later on? Yeah. And the 5 minutes will help you to feel what's actually going on with that energy in your body as well, and with your muscles and how stressed you're feeling. If you don't have that 5 minutes, sometimes it takes, you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you're like, man, my back is tense, I've got headaches, I'm angry with everyone because I don't have time, my breath is changing, what's going on here? And so that 5 minutes of like cushion time is helpful. That could simply be 5 minutes between clients that's booked into your calendar, you know. But I think that it has to be 5 minutes of literally, I'm sitting here doing sweet FA. Like,
that's actually really, really good advice. And, you know, like, yeah, we're so quick to, you know, go from one thing to the next. And even like, you know, I schedule a lunch break. And, you know, most days I do take an actual hour of lunch break, but I go and get my lunch, sit on the couch and look at Facebook, or I'll check my Instagram or something. So like, I don't, apart from going to bed, there's not a time when I, you know, like if I need a nap, and normally it'll be at the weekend, it might be, you know, because you've had a big week or whatever, and you'll have a nap on a Saturday or a Sunday, but I don't actually do that either. So that's actually really good. Yeah, you go to the bathroom and that's about it. It's like, what, a minute? So, you know, I've managed a minute. So I'm going to try that, like not locking myself in the bathroom, because my husband doesn't live with us anymore. So he's turned 30 this year. So I don't really need to hide from anybody. But, you know, like, that's a really good way to put it, to go, okay, how can you stop yourself from doing the next thing? And, you know, and I think as well, like, our mind goes into overdrive and you're thinking, oh, I've got that to do, and I've got that to do, and I've got that to do. But if we just stop and not necessarily meditate, but just sit there, like you said, do sweet FA, then yes, your mind still goes, but that's okay to just acknowledge that those thoughts are there, and you know that I've got that to do, and I've got that to do, and I've got that to do. But just let it like, you know, float by like a cloud, if you like. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things for people to do, is actually, because they think that they need to stop those thoughts, and you don't. You can't stop those thoughts. You can't stop, you know, but we can acknowledge them and just say thank you, and thanks for reminding me that I need to do that. I got it. I'm going to do that later or something. So any final tips before we jump off?
I just think that sometimes if you've got a really successful business in terms of products or services, it can hide your need to work on confidence and self-love. And you might be thinking, you know, my relationship or my health or my fitness or my stress is just, you know, work related, and it's not connected. But it's amazing how many people I've met who are still hitting their glass ceiling with, you know, their finances or whatever, because they haven't come back to what's my relationship with myself, you know, or they don't recognize simple things like, I don't want my face anywhere near my business. And it's just really acknowledging that it is your beautiful, beautiful business. It's your goals you're achieving. You've really got to be able to own your success in that. And that's all coming back to self-love and confidence. So, and also too, I think around, you know, people trying to get reviews to keep their business going and things like that, or dealing with trolls that sometimes happen on social media, there is a lot that comes back and is connected to confidence. And as we're talking about with sort of having that space, if we're not having that space to sort of take that nothing time or what have you, sometimes we have no idea how we're going and how we're tracking in life because we don't pause. And then we get to that point in time where people say, hey, can you help me because I feel lost, I don't know who I am. That's how it comes about. And so I think that's why the really little simple things are super important. It doesn't have to be this massive thing. It's actually quite easy to identify if there's something you feel like is missing. But I guess the point is recognizing that it's also very common. And then you can ask somebody for help, whether that's a free chat with a coach or someone that resonates with you, which is really important as well. As we were talking about before, coaching so personal, like you don't click with a person, it's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, if you're, you know, whether that's me or another coach or whatever, you've got to figure out who you're going to click with. But I think if there is a sort of an underlying feeling within yourself that maybe something's not right, or you're looking at other people in a social setting or at a business networking event, you're thinking, I'd like to have what they have. That's your mind telling you, hey, there's work here, there's growth here. And you can take that as a challenge. And I think a lot of high performers would really enjoy that challenge, but also it's so beautiful and lovely to see people step into a completely different place because they accept that challenge also. And yeah, that's probably what I would just encourage people to think. It's not always easy working through the confidence, because you've got to deal with like the not so great parts about yourself. It's not all fuzziness when you work with a coach, or niceness, but that's the only way you get to that point. And then you have that ease that you know will make you magnetic, like other people that you see.
Absolutely.
So I guess
I totally agree. Like, you know, I've had a few coaches as part of my growth, and like it makes so much difference. But I think, you know, we like you said, we have to find that person that resonates with us, and it changes with how you move and you flow in your business as well. So if our guests would like to connect with you further, where can they find you?
So I'm Magnetic Confidence on Facebook. So facebook.com/magnetic confidence, or magnetically_confident on Instagram.
Awesome. And I am like, I just love this. And I know that we could have just chatted. But, you know, like I'm conscious of your time as well. And I'm going to actually go and just do nothing for 5 minutes while I wait for the Zoom to upload itself. So thank you so much for today, and I will leave all the details in the show notes of how people can connect with you, and some details of your amazing coaching. And thank you so much. And for everybody else, I will chat to you all soon. Take care and big love.